Swift on Android is officially real in 2026. Not experimental, not a side project, real. But most iOS developers are either ignoring it, or worse, completely misunderstanding what just changed. Because this isn't about, you can now write Swift on Android. That's the least interesting part. I'm Code Hero. I've been building software for over 18 years. If you find this useful, subscribing helps the channel grow and keeps this kind of content coming. And today, I'm going to break this down the way senior engineers actually think about it. No hype, no fluff. On March 24, 2026, the Swift team released version 6.3. And inside that release, there's a shift that most people missed. Not a feature, not a syntax improvement. A shift in what Swift can be used for. The first official Swift SDK for Android. Not a community fork, not an experimental plugin. Official, supported, maintained. Before this, the community had Swift running on Android since 2015. But the toolchains were unofficial, builds were fragile, and reproducibility was a problem. Swift 6.3 changes that. It standardizes the toolchain. It makes builds reproducible. It turns possible into practical. Let's break down what's actually happening under the hood. Swift is a compiled language. When you target Android, you get a native binary. Not JVM bytecode, not interpreted, native, just like C++ compiled with the Android NDK. Android runs on Linux. Swift already compiles to native machine code for Linux targets. Same language, different target. And because it's native, performance is comparable to C and C++. That's the first real unlock. Now, to actually build for Android, you need to understand the workflow. There are three components. First, the Swift toolchain, the compiler running on your machine, Swift 6.3 installed via Swiftly. Second, the Swift SDK for Android. This is what teaches the compiler how to target Android. Third, the Android NDK, version 27D or later. This provides headers, linkers, everything needed to produce the final binary. With those three pieces, you run a single build command, and you get a native ARM64 binary ready for Android. But here's what most developers miss. Swift compiles natively, Android APIs don't. Android APIs live in Java and Kotlin. So how does Swift talk to them? Through JNI, the Java native interface. And raw JNI is painful, verbose, error-prone. You don't want to write that by hand. That's why the Swift team ships Swift Java. Two key tools, Jextract, generates bindings, wrap Java, lets Kotlin call Swift. These tools remove the JNI complexity. You write Swift, you write Kotlin, the tooling handles the boundary. Now let's talk about what actually matters. The real value is shared business logic. Think about logic that doesn't care about UI, authentication API clients, data validation sync engines. This should not exist twice. Before Swift 6.3, you rewrote all of this in Kotlin. 2 code bases, 2 bug surfaces. Now that logic lives in a single Swift module, both platforms call it natively. Can you build a full Android app in Swift? Technically, yes. But UI tooling is still early. It's something to watch, not ship yet. Let's be clear about limitations. Swift UI does not run on Android. Kotlin is not going anywhere. Tooling is maturing, but not perfect. The JNI bridge adds overhead for every call. For high-frequency loops, you need to design your interface to batch operations. This is not a replacement strategy. It's a strategic layer you add where the logic duplication problem is large enough to justify it. Here is the thinking that separates a junior developer from a senior engineer. The question is not, should I rewrite everything? The question is, where does my logic live, and how many times does it need to exist? Duplication is a bug surface. It's a velocity tax. Swift 6.3 changes the skill equation. You're no longer just an iOS developer. You're working with a cross-platform systems language. That is what matters. Not the language preference, the architecture. Write logic once, let each platform own its UI. If you want to try this yourself, install Swift 6.3, get the Android SDK bundle, and run Swift build. The official guide is on swift.org. If this helped, subscribe. I make videos to move your career forward, not just syntax tutorials. I am Code Hero. See you in the next one.